Non-Germans, what do you think about Germany? I think it's cool. German language has some funny words. If I remember correctly, antibabipil is the word for contraceptive pills, and it is just so simple and straightforward that it's funny and cool to me. Also, it has landscapes and architecture I really enjoy. Greetings from Brazil. I like Germany for many reasons. Their interesting history, their beautiful architecture, their delicious food, their cool cars and their amazing melodic metal bands, for example. But the thing that I like the most is that they overcame Nazism and became a tolerant and democratic nation. And even though they are no longer a Nazi-controlled country, they still remember the 1930s and the 1940s, not in a fond way, but in a way to make people remember that huge mistakes were made back then. If I may add something, we also talk about WW2 in history class extremely extensively. We learn about how this could even happen, how the Nazis got to power, how he manipulated the entire nation, etc. We really get an opportunity to learn from the mistakes of he past. I don't know if it is required by the curriculum, but we even went to KZ Buchenwald as part of our history class. It is a feeling impossible to describe. The room that got me the most was filled with a bunch of photos of victims combined with quotes from their families. This room made me realize like no other that each and every single victim was a regular human just years or months before with a family and a life. One quote my history teacher pointed out to us was the grandchildren of a victim saying, "We wish we could have met you." That stings really hard. As gruesome as the crematorium, which you can also walk into and see the furnaces of the sighters, it doesn't hit as hard emotionally as that room with the pictures, at least for me. I think everyone in my class had something that hit them really hard, which were several different places. On a somewhat related note, all signs there are translated into English, French, and Russian alongside German. If I may add something, we also talk about WW2 in history class extremely extensively. We learn about how this could even happen, how the Nazis got to power, how he manipulated the entire nation, etc. We really get an opportunity to learn from the mistakes of he past. I don't know if it is required by the curriculum, but we even went to KZ Buchenwald as part of our history class. It is a feeling impossible to describe. The room that got me the most was filled with a bunch of photos of victims combined with quotes from their families. This room made me realize like no other that each and every single victim was a regular human just years or months before with a family and a life. One quote my history teacher pointed out to us was the grandchildren of a victim saying, "We wish we could have met you." That stings really hard. As gruesome as the crematorium, which you can also walk into and see the furnaces of the sighters, it doesn't hit as hard emotionally as that room with the pictures, at least for me. I think everyone in my class had something that hit them really hard, which were several different places. On a somewhat related note, all signs there are translated into English, French, and Russian alongside German. I visited once. I thought it was great. Seemed safe. Loved the sausage and beer. Lots of people spoke English for me and didn't laugh at my poor attempts to try my hand at some German. The pastry shops were fucking awesome and there were so many cookies and cakes I'd never heard of. A fat boy's dream. A hell of a lot of kebab restaurants. Which is cool cause I like that food. They let you take your dog everywhere, which was awesome. Even in the shopping malls and on the buses. My wife worked in Germany for 3 years at an English-speaking daycare near Weimar. Her stories have reshaped everything I think about Germany, and especially the language. Popular media makes German sound angry and harsh. When someone you love speaks German, it sounds warm and comforting. My perspective is that Germany really has its shit together. I spent some time in Germany, and when I came back to the States, I really miss Germany. People understand the idea of order and rules and they, for the most part, follow the rules. Driving is so much easier there because people don't get into dick measuring contests about being overtaken on the highway. People don't pass on the right because people don't camp in the left lane. I often dream about moving there, but I doubt it'll ever happen. One of the first labs I worked in, I had a German boss. I'll never forget the way he would skip over wide swaths of details saying and blah, blah. That's right, only 2 blahs. So I asked a coworker why Dr. Bossman would only say 2 blas, and he replied, because it's more efficient. So ever since then I thought of Germans as very efficient. Upon arrival in Germany, we found that the electricity was briefly out in the building. They got it back on in 10 minutes. A guy came and apologized because there would be some constructive noise out front for the city to come put in the permanent fix. They would have to open up the sidewalk. We were a little annoyed because we thought the construction work would last the entirety of our time there at least. That's how construction and repairs are done in the US. But within a day and a half, they opened the sidewalk, dug down like 10 feet, made the repair, then filled it back in, and then replaced the tiny intricate cobblestones in the sidewalk with nothing to tell it had been disturbed besides some dust here and there. Wow. They could make a lot of money if they came to do business in the US. Lived in Osnabrück for 3 years. Here's a list that as an Englishman I found mental about Germany. Cigarette vending machines in the streets. They would get robbed in seconds here. Super clean. Littering is a big no-no. Sex is very in your face and not taboo at all. Polite and nice people. Bizarre that these lunatics started 2 world wars. Kebabs are banging over there. Never had one close over here. Bastards are good at penalties as well. I like it. I think one thing that's to their immense credit is how they've set up tons of memorials to the Holocaust all over the country and have, as a collective whole, sent some neo-Nazi scum, which TBF is everywhere, taken ownership and responsibility for that dark period and worked towards never doing it again. Much better behavior than certain other countries with genocidal pasts one could care to mention. Besides that, I just like traveling there. People are sometimes brusque and sometimes stare because I'm brown skinned, I think, but maybe they are just a staring kind of people, but I'm always well meaning and in a pinch helpful and friendly. It's also quite often beautiful, both the nature and the architecture, and German food and wine is underrated. The beer deserves the credit it gets. Being able to drink wherever one wants is fun too. I like that their current government leadership is science-based and reasonable. Even though it's a bit centrist for my taste, it seems to just work well. I admire their engineering abilities. They have a better outlook on climate than most countries, but still not good enough. I went there on a whim kinda. I got 2 weeks leave, and I was single with no kids, and I had a ticket to literally anywhere. So I went. My grandfather fought there. My dad studied the language. I studied it for 2 years. Why not, right? Gorgeous. Totally blown away by how friendly the people are. So much to explore. I loved the food. And honestly, just existing there was just a pleasure. Been back a few times with the same results. I'd move there if I could. I was raised with the idea of you being bad by my grandparents. Due to you know what? I have visited your country and you are okay to me. I'm proud of you for how you handled that delicate history, yet you are also the main argument for not owning up to your history. You accept it and try to learn from it, and people still think of Nazis. When Germany is involved, people still give you shit for it. Like take say Turkey or China or basically any other country. They just deny their black history pages and blackmail others not to mention it, or flat out join in on the denial, threatening political condemnation for discussing it. And it bloody works out for them too, as in they get away with their atrocities scot-free. I'm proud of how you lead by example in that regard, and at the same time, am pissed that such a noble approach gives you shit about it till this day. If you cannot own your mistake, you can never learn from it. Many countries can learn from your example in that regard. Non-German who's lived here for 10 years. I think it's a country that has some incredible beauty, both natural and man-made. It's a country that places a lot of value on safety and security and shows a lot of respect for people's privacy and their lives away from the workplace. I love the awareness about sustainability and environmentalism, and I love the fact that a lot of people I know are keen to support local business instead of large multinationals. And pretty much every German I've met has been a very decent person. Just really fundamentally good, well-meaning people all around. Stuff I struggle with. Things usually work really well, but there is a distinct lack of flexibility and thinking here, and if things don't go well nobody has a clue what to do, except blame someone else, because it seems to be a country where nobody can accept blame or own up to making a mistake. As good as Germans are, They are not overly friendly or warm, at least in my part of the country. After 10 plus years here, I can't say I have any close German friends. My close friends are other expats who also tried and failed to break into German social networks. And everything is heavy. There is no light. No light entertainment. Locally produced media is either horrible reality TV schlock or serious heavy informative news / current affairs / consumer report type stuff. No spontaneity. You want to meet someone for lunch? You schedule it. I like it here and appreciate the things Germany gives me very much. I don't want to stay here for the rest of my life though. I've lost my laugh a little since arriving. I like the holistic and natural approach they take to medicine before going for heavy duty meds. Based on my experience, I have to agree with others' posts about the museums and memorials they have. It's very humbling. I enjoyed the crosswalks with the different men shapes that would show you which side of the wall you would have been on. It's very neat. I come from the US and Italian culture. I love talking to others and have social formalities that aren't the same as Germany. You don't bring up polite side talk, try to carry on a convo, or say hi / acknowledge strangers in Germany like you do in the US. That was weird for me, haha. As a person quite close to making a permanent move to Germany, delayed because of COVID, and been there a lot, I have to say I like it there. I don't have doubts about living in the country. I love that they have tons of projects for fighting climate change and public follows these rules and guidelines. I love the fact that even villages have a lot of facilities. I love how good animal welfare is. There are tons to see, so many places to visit. I also like that people are not over chatty. I hated this while visiting US, where every store clerk acts like they are your eternal friends, but they are helpful. Autobahn is scary the first times, but you get used to it. Food is okay, it's not the best thing, but baked goods are amazing. As a non-beer person, even I like the beer, because they have so many types that you can find something you like. Wine from Mosel is my all-time favorite. One downside to me is they are crazy detail oriented. A simple construction takes months, even years. All documents and paperwork for everything has to be meticulously prepared. They can do so many things much faster if they weren't this much rule oriented. Other is it takes time to learn the language. Even though it seems to have simple rules, there are a lot of exceptions. And it's a headache to learn all the articles for each word because it doesn't really follow a rule. Or maybe it's because it's my third and my brain feels dead. Went to Germany in December 2019. Met many German people. High percentage of attractive people. Not rude, even though some said that Germans would be not usually outgoing, but will generally entertain questions and conversation with you. Hates untidiness, sloppiness or barbaric behavior. Can seem quite prim and proper. I quite liked them. This was just my experience. Could be different in other areas. Was only there for 2 weeks. I'm South African Dutch boy. I have really enjoyed my time there. Really a beautiful country. The people have all been really nice too, but there has been some racist crap out of them too, but that's the world we live in. I absolutely hate that you have to pay for the bathroom and water. As an American, I feel like water and sanitation are human rights, although I understand why. Also, leave your damn kitchens for the people who buy your apartment or house. That is an insane amount of money to keep moving and replacing that shit. I usually think you are pragmatic over there, but that is insane. I get the idea behind it, but it seems very wasteful. Lol. An American telling anybody else that they are wasteful. That's rich. In popular media, Germans are often portrayed as stern, uptight, and serious. Went to Germany, Berlin, and had a lovely time with pretty much everyone I met. Very friendly and welcoming. I've gone to Europe a few times, and my personal experience anyways, is that I've had the best interactions with the Germans and Dutch. The British are okay too. The French, Parisians, were a mix of pleasant and go away you dumb tourist. Belgium was my least favorite. I felt most people treated us quite coldly. Anyways, I'm sure I've offended a few people with my observations, lol. I liked it. Off the top of my head, I'd say I love the bakeries, my host family, and the chocolate. The people walking in the street looked mean, but the moment you ask for directions or help they're as nice as can be. Way more graffiti everywhere than I expected. Trains are pretty sweet. Bus drivers drive well but like maniacs. I never could dance well to the music played at nightclubs. Different culturally. I'm used to like rap/hip hop. When I was there the song Cheerleader was played on the radio so many times I was so tired of it. Yeah, I'll drink a lot of fruit teas. The yogurt and milk and bread is just amazing. At my university they put a lot of cream over pretty much everything. Nothing is spicy. Well behaved dogs everywhere. Loved all the museums. Small towns. Big cities. Was only harassed at night twice. Beautiful country. Hamburg reminded me of my home state of Michigan. I liked it and would like to go back. I live in California and visited Germany during high school for a student exchange program. I miss it terribly. I felt so much safer in Germany. The food was great and it was easy to go everywhere on bikes or public transit. The sense of humor is different, a little more dry and sarcastic than here in the US. I enjoyed that though. I'd much rather be there than here. I'm a little bit German genetically, but I don't think that's what you mean. I'm quite Jewish genetically too. I've always been wary of American Nazi types, but I have less than zero animosity towards Germans and Germany in general. I think people love to make Hitler jokes, but the whole all Germans are evil thing is really tired. Germans are just people. Some are boring, some are fascinating, some are fun, some are horrid. Humans. As far as the country, great cookies, good beer, it's got snow and a fun language. What's not to like? They're the greatest. They are the best at science and technology, especially physics. I've known a lot of Germans from my time at university and they are all very clever people. Half the physics faculty were German. I admire Germany's ability to make high quality stuff and that they are so efficient. Germany has some of the best artists and scientists, like Beethoven, Goethe and Einstein. I would dearly love to visit one day and go to Oktoberfest. The thought of a few steins of King Ludwig or Erdina next year is what's keeping me going. Beautiful country, lovely people. What struck me when I was there was how people are a bit cold and ignore you, lacking eye contact in passing, unless engaged for help. Perfectly kind when engaged, it's just a change when Americans acknowledge passing strangers with a smile and a nod, typically. Gorgeous place with a very progressive culture. If I didn't flunk out of my German classes, I'd have visited there a long time ago. From what I've heard it no longer encourages repressed emotions, but based on my grandparents, all immigrated out to escape Nazism during WWII era, it used to. It's possible that was just a product of the times, and not German culture specifically. From my friends who have visited, it also has some of the best nightclubs. Trying to collect a parcel from the post office that was addressed to both me and my husband. Was told that my husband had to come to collect it. I asked whether they meant both of us had to be there, and the response was no, just him. Needless to say I was not happy, and after a while arguing they gave me the parcel. I have issues constantly when going out to eat with my boyfriend. They always put the bill down directly in front of him no matter what. Even when I reach across the table to grab it and put my card in, they almost always put the check back down in front of him after swiping the card. They will often turn to him and thank him or tell him to have a great evening or which copy to sign. It's infuriating. Jackpots. But seriously, I love everything about the place. US was stationed there in the Cold War. Returned on vacation a few years ago. I keep up with German affairs on r/d and I still practice the language. If I had played my cards right, I would have extended my tour there until the end of my military service obligation, married the girl I love there, and I'd be a German today, and then I could laugh at the shit show that America has become from afar, just as Germans do.